starting the process of putting the transmission back under the Suburban. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to get the transmission under it. We don't have a lot of room to work. We're probably going to have to slide it on cardboard, and then I'm going to have to wrestle it onto the transmission jack underneath the Suburban. And so I'll probably do all that with the bell housing and torque converter off, just to make it a little bit lighter. It can be quite difficult. So we'll see how it goes. Before I do all that though, I'm going to flush the transmission cooler lines. So I think I will set up a time lapse. I'm not going, I videoed and showed how to pull this thing out. So I think going back together with it, I'm just going to set up a time lapse and just try to quickly get things done. I'm going to try to get this done today, which would be nice. So let's see how well I can do this. To flush it, I'm going to use that AC flush stuff in my tool. I could not find a liquid transmission cooler flush. They're all in an aerosol can, and I'd rather use my setup there, and that stuff dries with no residue, and so I figure it's good enough for transmission. So let me get this done. is day 2, and before I get the time lapse going, I figured I would show y'all where I left off and share a few tips. So we've got the transmission bolted up except for those 2 bottom bolts. I need to tighten those up. Of course, it's still sitting on the jack. I think we need to get the exhaust on it before I put the transmission cross member, if I remember right. Of course, and then we got to deal with all these wires. I'm in the process of bolting I've already got the dipstick tube in and bolted down. The vent bolts to the center top bolt, and so I need to get that nut started and tight. The converter. So before you put the converter in, of course, put some fluid in it. You're not going to get a lot, maybe a quart. Then when you slide it in, you need to keep turning it, and you're going to feel it clunk in several times. You need to make sure you get it fully engaged into the pump. It should be recessed into this housing quite a bit. Just keep turning it and slightly pushing in, and it should clunk in. And it'll look like it's about to touch the back of the transmission. It really sets back in there. Once it is fully in, what I like to do is loop this through one of the bolt holes in the converter, and then go tie it over to the side of the case on the transmission. And this just holds the converter in to make sure it doesn't slip out while you're trying to lift the transmission and deal with all that. The last thing you want is for it to slip out, because you can if it slips out and gets out of the pump, and you go and push the transmission up, and that pump or that converter bottoms out against the flex plate, and you tighten these down, you can damage the pump. It can break that gear on the pump. So you need to make sure when you slip this thing up here, there should be a gap between the converter and the flex plate. So right now I have a gap. It's that far away from about that far. It's that far away from the flex plate. So once I undo this, I can untie it. I can just, slip it back through the bolt hole. You don't want to tie it around the bolt hole, because you might have trouble getting it undone. Just loop it through, and that way you can just pull it out. I'll have to move once I get that undone, I'll have to move the converter towards the towards the flex plate just a little bit to get it up to it, to bolt it to it. So next step, I'm going to tighten these down. I'll get that bolt up there, holds that vent tube. I've got the transmission lines in. Put your dipstick in before you do the transmission lines, because they're in the way. But yeah, jack worked pretty well. It's leaning a little bit. I don't know if it's bent or what, but I had to wrestle with that a little bit. I've got it spaced up. It's holding on the back of the transmission now. Spaced it up with some old brake pads. Just something in there to get it. This tilt does not work very well. They slip. So yeah, it's bolted up. We just need to do some final touches, and we're getting close. So let me continue on. I'll set up the time lapse, and we'll see if we can get this done. I got a pretty early start today. I don't think I'll have to run any errands. I had to go get some more AC flush yesterday to flush the cooler. So it took away from some of my time working on this. Yeah, and on these cooler lines, once you flush it out, and you know it's clean, flush it again. You know, you want to make sure you get these things clean. So even if you're sure it's clean, just go ahead and do it again. You know, just to double check. So let's get busy.